I thought you, Phil, you were unique in your own way, and Van, you were fucking crazy. You were crazy, but I liked it because I thought that it all worked. Sometimes when you kind of shoehorn those characters in, or sometimes it feels like if you're just trying to, well, he can't be a badass. Like there's got to be something different about him. He can't be super serious. So I guess to that point, what was there any preparation that you guys did specifically for this role besides get shredded? Van, we can start with you, especially because you're batshit in this. You had me laughing, dude. You had me laughing in this.
Oh man, it makes me so happy to hear you say that. Yeah, I mean, it really was just kind of like,
you dancing as you're cooking the meth. When you were dancing as you're, I just dying laughing.
For me, it was pretty much an opportunity to just mess around and goof off and do characters that I don't get that much opportunities to mess around with. So it feels like what would your character do right now? That's what Phil always say. What would your character do right now? Like what would he do? And then it's like off the top of the head kind of thing. And for me, that's kind of like what made it work. And it was really fun. Yeah, that was. I didn't really have to prepare much because Phil knows me, and then we're all kind of, whenever all three of us are together, we're like the three idiots. Per se, but really cool way. In a really cool way.
I don't know.
In a really cool way. Like I think we're cool as shit, But people would think we're idiots, But like
I don't know, man. People think we're pretty okay. Like this guy, he loves us apparently.
Yeah, no, I mean, like you weren't on because you were too busy fucking around with your Oculus. But I was just telling him, like, dude, 20 years, like I've been following you guys. I mean. The other day, I think I was just playing your music there for a while, Van. Well, I had to shut it off. It was getting a little too lovey for me, so I had to bounce it back a little bit there. But what about you, Phil? Any preparations for this role? Because I thought, much different from Van. I thought you and Andy were very patient. In fact, I would argue I saw a lot of just time put into the acting craft when I was watching you two. Whereas, maybe we go back to, say, Fatal Contact and it's not there, or Black Mass 2, whatever, but it's not there. I thought just the patience, I think that's one of the biggest things that actors kind of overlook is just how comfortable you are in the role. And I thought you two, and especially you, Phil, you're wearing a lot of hats. You're an action director on this piece. And it doesn't look that you're completely overwhelmed. Okay. So you were.
I almost didn't survive the shoot, dude. Andy broke 2 of my ribs. I had dysentery. I was gonna die. I don't know if you saw, like, I got skinnier and skinnier and skinnier as the movie progressed. But how did I prepare acting wise? Let's go back to your question. I hate it. I freaking hate it when people like say like, oh, action kung fu actors don't act, we just do kung fu. That's not true. I mean, like if you can't make the audience care about your character, your fights mean nothing. I can just go to YouTube and watch people perform, and I think that's a very important thing. And in terms of my acting in this one, like, as you can kind of tell maybe from this podcast, I like to talk. I like to kind of project myself and stuff like that. But Gordon was a big help. He saw some of my acting and he said, Phil, you really need to dial back everything until you're almost uncomfortably. Because when you're uncomfortable, that means you're at the right level, in terms of just being quiet. Because he's like, you got to contrast with the rest of the characters in the movie. So, Van is crazy. Andy's crazy, but a different way. So I had to be very quiet. So that was actually more of a challenge for me than anything else. Because usually I like to talk, I like to ad-lib and everything. I was just quiet the whole time. So, which, in a way kind of helped because I wasn't quiet when I was off the set. I was directing and I had to do all those different things. But for me, that was my approach. But in terms of Andy, like just from what I've seen in these two guys, because I was behind the camera a lot of time, Andy is like the king of like ad-libbing. And just, if you let him, if you don't really get him too scripted, you let him understand the character and he kind of acts it out, he's super natural. He's actually one of the best actors I know. And same with Van. And then, the Van, like, he's like a pop star, right? He's like this big, famous, sexy dude. And then all the girls love him, right? So, like, what are the roles that they give this guy, right? It's the lovey-dovey movie roles that I never watch. So I wanted something that contrasted all that, because Van isn't like that in real life. He's more like the character that you see in that movie,
Crazy.
A lot smarter, but that kind of thing. So, yeah.
What about you?
Andy,
Yeah. What about you, Andy? Because there are several sequences in there where you're just downright terrifying, dude. Like sometimes, you go back to some of the other pieces you've done, and it's kind of tongue in cheek, and it's very, I don't know how to say it, like very B-level action films. That's not the case here. It's A's across the board from a technical aspect to the cast. I mean, it works. So are you just like, nah, man, just roll the camera. I'll handle it. We're good.
No, I think it just comes down to we really had a lot of freedom. We had a lot of freedom to do what we wanted, and when you have that, you're comfortable. You're comfortable with a lot of things you're going to have to do. And then, to be honest, I thought I was just cruising on this film because it was just fun. It was like, anything that I wanted to do, or if I had an idea, I can just tell Phil, hey, how about we run it this way? Or
I was afraid to tell him no. I'd be like, yeah, you can do whatever you want, Andy. You can do whatever you want, Van. No, I'm just kidding. All his ideas are great. All his ideas are great.
Well, I tried.
No, you were funny. I mean, you're great. You scared me too on the set. I was like, oh, who's this guy? I don't want to fight him. He'll break my ribs. And you did. You broke 2 of them.
That's what it was. That was just, it's kind of like working. It was more like, I'm hanging out with my buddies, right? We're on the set, just doing stuff, and it was fun. It was like the most, one of the most fun projects I've done, without a doubt.
So what about, so we got some broken ribs. Do we have some other great stories from on set that need
can I tell
Philip's
about
head got split open.
your wife?
Wait, what happened? I heard wife head
wife,
split.
Andy heard, yeah. Well, Andy wasn't married yet, but then his current wife, his wife now, is that how you say it?
Current wife, his only wife.
I've been speaking Cantonese too long. It's difficult for me to transfer my thoughts. Anyways, she was in the movie too.
Okay. So were you married while the shoot was going on, or did this come after the fact?
It was after, but then
it was like, I think we were engaged for like almost 3 years. But it was all due to like work and scheduling, and then but we had a baby coming during that movie, so
but no one knew about it. So there's a stunt. I wanted to see if Andy would say something before I say anything, but there's a stunt where she had to fall down. Like she has to fall down, and they're like, oh, they gave her like a mat and everything. I was very insistent. No, she cannot fall. She cannot fall. No one knew why. They just realized, wow, Phil's being a dick today. I'm a dick every day. So you get used to it.
Yeah, you were.
Hey, shut up. But anyways, yeah, and that's the story.
Well, congratulations. Okay, yes. And yeah, have you healed yet? It doesn't sound like your heart is healed. It sounds like the ribs may have, but your heart isn't.
Mentally, I fear him. I don't let him do that kick ever again.
When did principal photography begin on this film? Because that's another thing too. I can't stand. I don't think Van heard, but I was trying to do my best learning on the fly of Mandarin on YouTube, which that was a terrible idea because there's a lot of conflicting answers on the YouTube. But hey, I tried. So as I'm researching this, like, it's very hard for some films, this one in particular. Like, if you go to IMDb right now, there's a third of the crew that's listed, whereas, like, you go to the credits on the actual film, and it's just like, where is all this stuff in terms of research? But I saw 2019. Is that true, or was it before that? Because it seems like this film may have been out for quite a while, at least on the East, as opposed to the West.
It was principal photography came before then, but the movie was released in Asia in 2019.
But we shot it in like 2015, 14.
Yeah, we shot it around that time.
Oh.
Yeah. We're not supposed to talk about that, but it's fine.
Oh, okay. All right. We don't need to talk about that. All right. So it was not 6 years ago. It actually was last year during the pandemic.
It was right before pandemic. I mean, it got released. In 2019. It was right before the pandemic, but it was it was well received. But then I wish the box office was a little bit better.
Just because I'm thinking of it on the fly, let's derail here for a second. How did the pandemic treat you three? Was this something that, did you guys work through it? Were you guys working as it was going on? Were you confined to home? And if you were, was it driving you nuts, or did you need a break? Andy, you had a kid on the way. Was it nice to just kind of sit back and chill? Talk to me.
I mean, I was okay in the beginning, and then ammo. There was an ammo shortage, and prices started going up for ammo. And then I got stressed. And I was just during this whole time in the pandemic when it started, I was in the States. I was in California, and then I haven't worked in almost a year and a half.
So is it starting to it's got to be eating at you then at this point? But I mean, we're right around the corner. I mean, I'm sure you have some stuff that's like we're just kind of waiting for some restrictions to be lifted.
Yeah, I mean, because of this pandemic, I have like 6 projects that's just on hold that hasn't been out released. So I mean, we're just waiting for that. But then, the good thing is I spent a lot of time with my family during this whole pandemic, and that was the main part, that we can be together and spend time. But we went through the whole quarantine stuff. Van went through the quarantine stuff. That's something that was the roughest part, I think, during the pandemic. Like quarantine in a place, we did 21 days. So 21 days in a hotel room. And then,
that's rough, dude.
Yeah, no, that's
14, like when we got to the 14-day mark, I was like, this is perfect. That 1 week more is just nuts.
There's always 1 week more though. I had 2 weeks when I came back in the hotel. The first week was fine. I was by myself. For the second week, I was like one of those polar bears in a zoo. I kept just walking around my living room, just backwards and forwards.
Yeah, walking around in circles. Where am I? Get me out of here.
Well, I knew where I was. I was like, well, I wish I had an Oculus before. I would have been on that. I would have been so fit during quarantine. I'd be boxing every day. Yeah.
I would have done it too.
What about
quarantine? And then go ahead. Yeah, please.
Well, I was going to say, what about you, Van? I got a lot of friends that live in LA, and I want to say like 90% of them, most of them went nuts, man. The other 10% were just like, I love it. I don't have to do shit. Like I could just sit here and watch movie or whatever. But what about you, Van?
Mine was pretty chill in the beginning, and I was very blessed and fortunate enough that early June, I was able to bounce out to China, and I went to work. And then after China for about 6 months, I flew to Taipei for about 5. And then now I'm back in the States. So I think for the most part, it hasn't affected me too much. If anything, it helped me a little bit with certain things. But I'm definitely ready to start different work and projects also. Definitely, yeah.
Phil, you minus the hotel, like mentally, where were you?
I was I was in the States when the whole thing hit, because I went back right before it happened, because I went back for Chinese New Year and also for my mom's birthday, and then I was going to stay, and after that I had a few projects that had to start in Asia right away. But then the thing hit and everything got stopped, suspended. Then at first I was like, okay, well, I'll take this time to kind of relax and chill a little bit, hang out with my family. But as it dragged on, mentally, it got to me a little bit, and then you're like, oh, what's going on with my projects? What's going to happen? I mean, I think it's normal for everybody, but